2 weeks ago, Blizzard announced several changes that they were planning for the game of Hearthstone. This included more special events throughout the year, new character portraits for people earning over 1,000 wins, changing the daily quest to be more of a pleasure to complete, and updating more subtle things such as search terms. But the truly exciting part of this announcement was the plan for the meta, with Blizzard electing to add 23 cards from Wild to the standard pool, freely put into all players' collections for a limited time. With the first announcement, they only teased 2 of these cards, N'Zoth and Ragnaros. Ragnaros, my boy! I've missed you so much! Come give your favorite Hearthstone player a hug!
Die, insect!
You know, Rag, I kind of forgot how much of an ass you were.
Die, die, die!
As eager as a child before the Feast of Wintervale, I waited to see what cards Blizzard had chosen, and when the full announcement for Hollow's End Doom of the Tomb was made, this was my approximate reaction. What the f***? What the f***? What the actual f***? Okay, that one's actually pretty fair. What the f***? Man, Blizzard, you are not pulling any punches with this. Several of the craziest and most interesting cards from Hearthstone's history are making a return, and Bloodhoof Brave for whatever reason. That brings me to today's video. As someone who recognizes each of these cards and the impact they've made, I will be examining them all and assessing how strong they were in the past, as well as how strong I anticipate them being now. To do this, I'm going to be breaking these 23 cards into 4 categories: the boring, the exciting, the fun, and the interesting. Without further ado, let's get to it. So let me clarify what I mean when I say boring. Some of the cards this event is providing us simply weren't the most interesting parts of the decks they were in, while they also failed to synergize particularly strongly with any newer cards. These include Bloodhoof Brave, Babbling Book, Imp Game Boss, and Call of the Wild. Let's break each of these down. Babbling Book serves simply as a reminder that Tome of Intellect is a bad card. In fact, Blizzard, if you could just replace Tome of Intellect with Babbling Book, I think that would be much better. Imp Gang Boss is probably the second strongest 3-drop in Blackrock Mountain, as well as the second strongest 3-drop in the entire game. With that said, that's all it has going for it, and it will take more than a single card to save Warlock from their depression. Bloodhoof Brave is a tempting option thanks to Warrior's Taunt synergies, but it also needs to compete with both Militia Commander and Restless Mummy. Finally, the strongest of these boring cards is Call of the Wild, which even after being nerfed was a Hunter staple for 2 years running. Unfortunately, late-game effects and combinations have risen in power over time, and while Call of the Wild might surge with the Zul'jin synergy, I doubt it will swing Hunter to new heights. And finally, there's one particularly dumb addition to this collection: Lock and Load. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't believe Lock and Load was used in any major decks during its tenure. Meanwhile, it's not exactly a popular card in Wild. So what does this card even offer? Synergy with Rapid Fire? I sincerely don't know why this card was chosen. Other fantastic options to change things up would have been Quick Shot, Fiery Bat, Kind of Grandmother, Glavezuka, Cloaked Huntress, Feign Death, Infested Wolf, Swamking Dread, Gazrilla, or if Blizzard were feeling particularly ballsy, Deathstalker Rexar. And they picked Lock and Load. Ah well, 22 good choices out of 23 isn't a bad amount. And who knows, maybe I'll be wrong and this card will manage to surprise me. I won't be wrong, there's absolutely no way that this card is going to surprise me. Now let's get to the good stuff, the cards that I anticipate will make a huge difference in the game. Let's start with the obvious.
By fire be purged!
Don't get me wrong, this beefy elemental isn't much stronger than a lot of the other cards we've labeled as boring. The difference is that Ragnaros is both unique and neutral, meaning that any deck that wants a Ragnaros can use a Ragnaros. Given that the best 8-drop for some decks right now is Octosari, I imagine there will be plenty of demand for this iconic card. Moving on from that perfect pick, we also have Flamewaker, a card that in its day managed to be the deck-defining minion for Tempo Mage. Will this card bring that deck back? Probably not. However, other tools in Mage's arsenal are certainly effective when it comes to making this work. Perhaps the Waker and Babbling Book will be able to bring pride back to this class in the form of a new deck. If anything can do that, Flamewaker certainly can. Next up is Emperor Thaurissan, which serves as one of the strongest control combo cards ever released to the game. This card's inclusion is therefore curious, because control combo decks appear to be completely missing in Old Doom's meta, being replaced with aggro combo and pure control. I doubt that this card will manage to bring back Exodia Mage or anything like that, but as another neutral legendary, it has a variety of places to go. I'm sure that it will be able to find a home somewhere. Those 3 are the strongest standalone cards of the 23 provided, but they are not the end of the story. Some of the other cards don't have as much standing power as the ones we just listed, but they definitely have powerful synergies to exploit. Let's start with Sylvanas and N'Zoth. The former has the strongest death rattle provided to pretty much any card, while N'Zoth is obviously able to exploit that. Most Highlander and Control decks will likely welcome these 2 legendaries alongside whatever other death rattles they can muster. Next up is Evolve and Thing from Below. Shaman has already been exploiting Mogu Fleshshaper by, well, shaping its flesh. Evolve is just a stronger means to do that same task. Throw in an iconic 6-mana card that's never actually 6 mana, and I can easily see a new flavor of Shaman coming together. Hey, maybe Desert Hare will see play. Finally, we have Avenge and Mysterious Challenger. Avenge is easily the strongest secret that Paladin was ever provided, and in the brief window where it and our enigmatic competitor were both in the meta, that deck dominated. While Secret Paladin isn't currently seeing much play, the tools for its use certainly exist. I don't think that the deck is going to be as oppressive as it once was, but if you have a spare Commander Visa in your collection, I recommend trying it out. That concludes my thoughts for the truly intimidating cards we've been provided, but there are still a few more to talk about, so let's change gears for a bit. Hearthstone is a video game, and video games are supposed to be fun. While some people have fun by playing the best decks and doing well with them, others just like it when crazy things happen. To that end, Blizzard has once again provided us with more tools, specifically in the form of Renounce Darkness and the Druid class cards. Starting off with Renounce, this card has always served as deck-creating nonsense, with the only strategy being pure luck. But that is exactly what it says on the tin, and some players adore that. Why else would Quest Rogue even exist? It will certainly not be many players' choice of deck for climbing to Legends, but plenty of people will love the shenanigans this card enables. In fact, Blizzard, I'd say that this card should also go in the Classic set. Just saying. And now, let's look at the Druid cards. Astral Communion is a huge example of high risk, high reward, but its particular drawback makes it painfully difficult to plan around. However, this deck isn't without hope. Overflow and Lucent Bark fit this archetype perfectly, as well as Crystal Song Portal and Juicy Psych Melon. And of course, Kuhn only really works in a ramp druid, at least so long as Aviana isn't around. But I cannot in good conscience recommend trying this deck. The odds of the correct cards being drawn at the correct time are simply too small to manage against the raw strength of tempo. But that said, I am glad that the option is available to us, and that this flavor of druid can once again exist in some capacity. Onto our fourth and final section. These last 6 cards I'm not entirely sure what to make of. It's possible they'll be hugely effective, or it's possible they'll fall flat. Let's break them down. The Curator is another neutral legendary, which, like we said with the previous ones, is a huge benefit. However, while this card saw plenty of use in its time in Standard, there aren't a huge amount of powerful dragons, murlocs, and beasts that the players would want cherry-picked out of their deck. With that said, there are a few. Finley, the different Loa, Scale Worm, and the occasional strong dragon. Additionally, mech synergies have increased since the Curator's day, so that can potentially be exploited. I'm going to watch this card carefully, but I doubt it will surprise me unless Highlander Paladin becomes a thing. Next up, Shaku and Swashbuckler obviously serve one purpose, to make Quest Rogue stronger. My hypothesis is that these two will give the deck enough of a power boost to keep it bouncing around, but not enough to elevate its power. I'm actually quite interested with these two being applied in this way, since Shaku rarely saw use and Swashbuckler simply served as Patch's main man. We'll see just how well they manage to fit in. Next up, Control Priest isn't really a thing right now, but with those neutral legendaries, it might be worth examining. To that end, Light Bomb is the second strongest board clear the class ever got, and Vol'jin is okay too, I guess. Perhaps all these cards in tandem will be enough for the deck to exist, but I once again cannot be certain. And finally, our last card piques my curiosity more than any of the rest, Varian Rin. This card was never exceptional, providing a big board at too late a time for the Grand Tournament meta. However, Big Warrior is a deck type that has often been played with, and the class currently has several tools that work in conjunction with this idea. Varian never had these allies in the decks he was in. Will their existence be enough for this card to work now? Probably not, but it's still the first deck I'm going to be trying. Speaking of, if you're watching this the day of its release, I am probably in the middle of a live stream right now. This is my first Twitch live stream in several months, so I hope to see many of you there. I'm very proud of what Blizzard is doing here. While they are obviously a soulless corporation concerned with nothing but their bottom line, they do know that the best route to get that is to have a happy audience. And this entire event is, without question, making me happy. So for my final parting wisdom, spend your dust wisely, remembering that you'll be stuck with whatever you choose to craft once the event is over. Don't forget to use your 2 free arena tickets, stay wise to the current state of the ladder, and most importantly, have fun. Also, like and subscribe! Please? And I'll see you all next time.